Tell me a little bit about Michelle Morgan and how in the world you end up in Carroll County and how'd you end up being commissioner of Carroll County?
So interesting enough, back when I was in high school, looking to go to college, I had applied several places, UGA, Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, because I'm from DeKalb County. The difference with that time, um, my parents, we couldn't get scholarship money, or you couldn't get funds to, because well, basically my mother made too much. She made $40,000. We were a single income family, and that we did not qualify for Pell Grant or any kind of money. So trying to go to UGA or Georgia Tech out of the price
Yeah,
range.
yeah, yeah.
And I didn't want to live at home. University of West Georgia College at the time had sent, beautiful little brochures. We drove out here and I just loved it. And I could afford it because I paid my whole way through school.
Good for you.
Did receive some scholarship money, did receive some grants from the state of Georgia for my master's program. I loved it here and didn't want to leave. So working on my master's, I worked with another student, Brenda Dangle, and we opened up a likely story book center because I was determined I was staying here in Carroll County. I even laugh and say that I would only date somebody who was not going to take me away from Carroll County. And as you know, I married into a family business. This year, we're celebrating 90 years.
Wow.
Fourth generation just came to work for us. He graduated from UGA. And so we're still rocking and rolling and doing the same thing. So that is how I came. Well, then when you look into politics, Jimmy and I had always been very active from a very early age with the National Association of Convenience Stores, the Georgia Association of Convenience Stores, the Georgia Almonds Association, because in the convenience store and gasoline world, it's probably one of the heaviest regulated industries. So we were already going to Washington, D.C. way back in our 20s, and especially with Newt Gingrich.
Yeah.
Jimmy actually worked for Newt Gingrich when he first graduated from high school, went to Washington, D.C. and worked for Newt before he came back and ran the family
I
business.
bet that was a cool experience.
Always been involved, but never thought I'd run for office. It wasn't till I started looking at, after I gotten more involved in the family business, started looking at what local legislation was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, who are these 7 people making a decision about my family, about my employees, and even more so, the thousands of customers that shop with us? And had gone to a meeting and started really paying attention. And I thought, I could bring something to this group. I could bring something to the citizens of Carroll County. And that's how I first ran in 2014 for district commissioner.
Okay.
And loved it. Loved working alongside of Marty. Marty Smith was chairman at the time. I realize the other people listening might not know this, but turns out Marty went to high school. My husband actually lives across the street from us. His son lives with my son. So, really got to know him better. Enjoyed working alongside of him. And when he got tapped by Brian Kemp to go be the commissioner of state buildings and property, it left a void in the chairman's position.
Yes.
At that point, I said, I either want to be with this group or I don't.
Yeah.
And so I ran for chairman, and I have enjoyed, I would say 99.99% of my day. I enjoy getting up every day. I love helping citizens of Carroll County. To me, they're customers.
Mm-hmm.
They pay taxes. It makes them a customer. And that's the world I'm from.
Well, you handle the stress really well, because I've seen you a few times in meetings, and I've seen a few of those little tense moments and with the other commissioners, because you got so many different personalities and backgrounds. And but when you first took the job, what did you see as like the largest challenge in front of you? I know you had to get to know staff, and you probably had to hire some staff. And what are some things you kind of did when you first?
I actually decreased staff, but as through attrition, I didn't fire anybody. But when I first took office in August 2019, the county budget had not been voted on, because when I ran and the other commissioners, it went and Marty left, we didn't have quorum.
Okay.
So the budget was still running July 1st on the old budget.
Okay.
So one of the first things I had to do was hurry up, get into the budget, see what was going on. One of the things is our sheriff had advocated for higher pay for, his public safety. And, but the rest of the county employees weren't, he was supposed to get his employees supposed to get July 1st. Rest of the county employees were getting it January 1st because of how money was, going
Right.
to pay out. And I went and sat down with him and I said, Terry, I would love to do this all together, to show that we're all one united group. And, you know him. I mean, he's been sheriff,
Yeah.
almost 25
He's a
years.
fantastic guy.
Incredible person, knows Carroll County so well. And he agreed, and we paid everybody in October. So the county employees got one a little bit earlier, got the raise. The other ones had to wait, but at the same time, everyone together, 600 employees, I didn't hear a grumble out of it. So that was one of the very first things, was getting in,
awesome.
really understanding the budget more on a chairman's level than just on a district commissioner level. And then, of course, the dreaded word COVID hit.
Yeah.
6 months. Wow. And I'd only been in office 6 months, plus I had to run again because I was only filling a term. So you got that going on, and the COVID hit. And I think a lot of it was, do we close? Do we not close down? I mean, that was the big question. I know our schools closed and went to virtual learning, but at the same time, I didn't know a whole lot about it. I was having some good conversations with Lloyd Howard, our Tanner Medical Center health system, but all that was still so new. And mostly in the county, I would tell business when they call me and say, we don't know a whole lot about this. Do you want to take a chance on getting sick? Do you want to take a chance on your staff getting sick? And, trying to figure out how could they still do business. And Barnes was one of the best ones. They started doing it over the phone and putting the packages outside, Cedra with Sweet Peas. She moved everything to like the trunk of her car and was delivering things.
We closed some, we had closings in a parking deck.
Yes.
That was kind of crazy.
So, it's a lot of things, and people would call me and they were mad that there were certain businesses still open and wanted to understand why they were allowed. And I said, well, by federal requirements, there are essential businesses, your grocery stores, Home Depot. And, people were like, well, it's not fair. They're in there buying flowers. I'm like, you know what, but they're outside and they're doing something healthy. But, I had to explain to people, strangely enough, one of the toilets in our house broke because all of a sudden all the kids came home from college and the toilet broke. And not that we didn't have another one, but I remember when Jimmy went to Home Depot, I said to him, don't wear your Morgan Oil clothing. Don't wear anything that identifies you. Don't take a Morgan Oil vehicle. Go buy the toilet and come home incognito. But we were a perfect example of how you still needed your lawn and business and construction stores open. Construction was still able to happen. Your gas stores, and this I told one citizen that had called me that was upset that one of our stores was open, and I said, ma'am, I'm gonna be very honest with you. I can show you on paperwork how much gas we sold the same date week a year ago to what we're selling now, and we were down, like our sales are down 90%.
Wow.
Which told me people were not really out like they would normally be.
That's great,
but doctors, nurses, they still had to get to work, and you had to have your convenience stores open to help them. So a lot of those decisions that were just kind of rolling along like this. So when I think ahead to some of your other questions, a lot of these were not even on the table then. We were all just trying to do the best we could at any given moment.
Right. And I think the other thing about COVID, it was just uncharted territory for everybody on the planet. I mean, it wasn't just one individual sector or whatever. But so I didn't realize, for some reason, I thought that this was your second term, but it was your second half term because you served out the first term.
So I did in 2020, got reelected, didn't have an opponent. So I am serving out the first four. The first four. So yes, it's kind of I have an odd number.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, what are some things that you see facing Carroll County in 2024, like that are pretty pressing?
Well, I think a lot of it. So this is about the time I start working with all the department heads and all the different departments. The court system, the judges, and going through their budget. Because we have to approve a budget in June. It starts July 1st. Unlike in the business world, we're used to saving our money and thinking, can we do this 6 months from now? We kind of are stuck on 365 days, and you don't deviate from it too much. So you follow through. So you have to figure out what you think you're going to bring in before you even bring it in, which is so opposite of the retail world. You wait till you have it before you go and buy it. This is kind of the opposite. So a lot of what's on mine, especially I would think, in the realtor world, is housing.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about there are no affordable houses. We talk about in Carroll County that we want to remain ag
Mm-hmm.
because I was telling somebody at the state of the county last week that we're like 322,000 acres in Carroll County. So like one of the top largest land counties.
Mm-hmm.
And we're real big in ag. I mean, we're 16th in the state for poultry. And I tell people one poultry farm in Carroll County feeds 22,000 people a day. I mean, that's impressive.
That's amazing. Yes.
Plus our beef. So, we have to maintain our ag.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to think about these families and how they're generationally going to keep running their farms, or are there new, students here in Carroll County that are going to graduate, go and get an ag degree that never lived on a farm, so we have to figure out how we keep our farms or how we keep farm production going. We also love out here that we are not one of our metro counties,
Mm-hmm.
that we're not so much on top of each other. But at the same time, bring an industry in that will pay taxes versus the homeowners having to have the burden on it. So, I catch all that. And I'm also one that, like I said, I have a son who just came back to work for us. Where does a 25-year-old in Carroll County live? And what can they afford?
Yes.
So right now he's living next door to us because we happen to have my mother-in-law's home, luckily.
Yeah.
And he has two roommates living with him that they've come back to live in Carroll County too. But as a whole, where do they live? And they don't want to live in an apartment. Did that through college. And as young men, they want a green egg and a big screen TV on the back deck. Okay. How do you get that in an apartment living? But,
right.
So these are things I think about. How do we bring back our children? So the housing thing is important to me because, how do we bring them back? We want them back. We want them living, working here. So, these are questions that we every day think about. I did get some statistics earlier today because I actually at Rotary was having lunch with another one of your realtor friends, and I was telling him, I said, I had some numbers. So I really got some good facts here. So in Carroll County alone, we have 1,800 acres that are vacant parcels already zoned residential.
Oh, wow.
So 736 parcels already zoned residential are half acre or plus. And of those 736, 20 actually are 10 acres or more. We have one area that's 136 acres already zoned residential that has not been, platted out yet. That said, a lot of this hydrology, topology, working, all that stuff, makes a difference. But, when people sit there and say, we don't have a place to build, we have places to build. Right. We have land already zoned, ready to go. It's just falls in those other factors too, that as a builder, what can you build and still make a good income off of?
Right.
And then as realtors, what can you sell and still make a good income off of? And then are we building the homes that young men and women coming back to live in Carroll County, or people who are just starting a family? It seems like you always start off in a smaller house, you move to the next house, then you went back to a smaller house as you aged. So I hear everything and I see it firsthand. But I'm not in the construction world. I'm not in the realtor world. So I rely on y'all to have these conversations with me.
Well, it is a challenge too, Michelle, because there's some things that we as realtors and even the builders can't control. We can't control the price of a 2x4 or the, of OSB or stuff that you buy to build a house with. And there's so many factors with inflation over the past, 24 months. It's just been dramatic. And then the interest rates on top of that has really just kind of, it seems like it's flown out of control. And so I think it's a great conversation to have, but we can only control what we can control. And it, to me, the part that's really been a little bit hard to process is the cost of rentals. They've went up significantly as well. And so there's a lot of people in a bind. But I heard a stat too, and I think I've shared this before, that the number of transactions in real estate in 2023 was the lowest since 1995. And we have 80 million more people since then in the country. So it's just like crazy. the amount of resales. No, I think with some of this kind of other housing like Ray Lynn's doing out near City
Mhm.
Station, some of those things like that. And we've got a few things going on here in the city and in the county. I think we're trying to catch up, but my personal opinion is we never caught up from 9, 10, and 11. Like when the
Yes.
builders, everything just kind of shut down and a lot of builders went out of business, the population was still growing and going and, that kind of thing. So, but I appreciate, I really feel like that you guys at the commission are doing a great job kind of walking us through that. I know that you get pressure from both sides, from the, people who want to just stare at trees all day to the people who want to build houses and bring their kids here. It's kind of a never-ending probably discussion and debate. But there's some areas of our county that are really still very rural. And I was just looking at some property the other day. It had been subdivided, but it's on a dirt road. And I told the people that did it, that's going to be a challenge because the road doesn't look like it's a good road either. And so I'm not sure how much the county's going to be excited about trying to help get this road fixed when you don't have taxpayers living here yet, and we need some infrastructure in it
Right.
and so
Yeah.
forth.
And that is something you say too. So like in the cities, they usually own their water.
Mhm.
They own the water plant, they own all the piping, they own all the infrastructure. In Carroll County, we're set up with Carroll County Water Authority that operates totally separate from us. I mean, we do appoint board members, but their account money's separate, how they vote and spend it. So most of Carroll County does not have, water. I mean, you have to run your a septic tank,
Right.
and the lines are smaller. So you got to think about fire. Somebody builds a really big, nice home, and while they have water, they don't have the water flow that the insurance company wants.
Right.
So, some of it is we're not there, and some of it is we don't need to be there if we want to still maintain our rural heritage. So you got to look at, and I think we've done a good job in planning with the comp plan, looking at what part of Carroll County do we want to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure we put the infrastructure in there, and then keeping this other part for ag. But
Mm-hmm.
like Scott Cowart, and I've had several conversations. There's places that we can have, like these parcels I was just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
that we can build housing for school teachers, because that's the main thing too. Where do school teachers live? Where does our public safety live?
Yeah.
The income level of what kind of house can they afford? Well, the other problem is like down in the central school district, because you're familiar with Carroll County
Right.
here, that all that is rural and it's not for sale.
Right. Yeah.
So teachers have to live way up by Villa Rica Temple, and all of a sudden it's a 30-minute drive to work every day, 30-minute drive home. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it does change the dynamics, but how do you make a subdivision get built
Right.
out of school,
Right.
And so
Right.
realistically, a lot of it, our cities do have to handle the density, and I'm okay with the cities handling the density because they do have all the infrastructure in there.
Right.
Carroll County only grew by like 10,000 people in 10 years.
That's pretty modest.
It,
Yeah.
it is. And like I said, when I work with the chamber and we talk about what kind of new industry we want to bring in, especially industry that's related to ag that will help, support all that, it goes back to then again, where are those employees going to come from? Do the
Mm-hmm.
employees even exist in the United States? Because
Right.
everyone's looking for people. So do you go and build, like I think about Rivian, I think up there in Monroe County or Oconee County, and I think of Bryan County down there, all of a sudden they're having to build everything,
Right.
hotels, apartments, houses, to bring the people in. But then I almost wonder, are there any people to come in,
Right.
since our unemployment numbers are so low?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that another thing I want to touch on that I think you guys have done really well is lobbying the private sector to get some internet capability in our county. Talk a little bit about, if you don't mind sharing some. I know we have some options now, and I've seen a lot of Spectrum, and I know Carroll EMC had some stuff working in the rural areas. 'Cause I have a son that lives way out in the county, and there was no internet, and he had that Elon Musk Starlink thing, and that's expensive, but
Yes.
he was able to get better internet through the Carroll EMC program that they came out and put in. What is the county still? I mean, it looks like we're getting really pretty well connected.
I think much better. There's still some pockets with the ARPA funds that we received. earmarked about $2 million to work with the Carroll EMC and the Sync Global program. And they're again, thankful for AT&T, Comcast, all the others that are coming in, a Spectrum. But at the same time, I guess being a small business owner, being married into a small business family, I do like to promote what's local, what's already here. They're already paying taxes and their families are living here. So we had partnered with them, and sadly they never really got much of the grant money. It went to some of these other companies. So, but on the elected official, I'm still appreciative that they're putting the internet in. They're coming here. When a citizen calls me and they still have an area, because even now, I have one citizen who's diabetic. Well, see, everything now is running off the internet when they're supposed to get their injections. So that's important. It's not just that they can watch TV. This is down to the medical part of it, and and the education, of course, of our kids getting their schooling off the internet. But I had not realized the medical part of it. So having to work with Comcast and Spectrum to say, look, this citizen, this is a special needs person. I mean, not special needs, but they have a special concern issue. How are we going to provide to them? And they've been very agreeable to working with me and trying to figure out how to get these people online. So it's been slow going, not as fast as most of us like. My neighborhood actually got dug up 3 times. So now I have 3 offerings in my neighborhood. And I'm just like,
and so other people
don't have any yet. Now I have 3. So a lot of it is I don't understand the rhyme or reason, because I'm not in that business world, but I just know we're doing better. I think the state of Georgia is doing better on it. But yes, there are still some areas, especially even strangely enough, North Carroll, High Point Road, they just can't get it.
Really? That's crazy, because I live in the south end, probably more rural part of our county, and I actually have 2 offerings as well now, and it was just kind of crazy. I'm like, where did this come from? I think it felt like there was a little bit of a race going on between the private sector and some of the the government helped people, I guess you might say. But I think if we just get internet throughout our county, it'd be wonderful. A lot of people will really benefit. I hadn't even thought about the medical component as well until you just said that, but it is definitely there. With 2024, I haven't heard of Michelle Morgan for commissioner yet, but I feel like you've really done a great job. From my perspective, I try not to be too political and so forth, but you got to pick a team at some point or pick a person, and we all have one vote. And so I'm just curious, are you planning to run for re-election?
I am. The sheriff and I were actually on the Community Voice last Friday together. It was the first time in history the sheriff has ever been on with the chairman. So I was extremely honored for that.
That's cool.
And we had gone on really to talk about our partnership with public safety, because we want to bring people here. We want people who live here to be happy. And you can't do that if you don't have a good public safety. If you don't have fire, you don't have deputies, you don't have 911. So you've really got to make sure the infrastructure I consider as county government is in place to take care of our citizens. So we have been on there because we've had a great partnership. Terry and I've known each other for a long time. Cynthia and I work together with communities and schools. So really, they've been kind to invite me to baby showers, weddings. So I feel really a part of their family. And so Terry starts talking about his fundraisers he's having. And then all of a sudden it rolled into that obviously he's running, and they're like, are you running again? I'm like, well, yes, I just had not really prepared my package, to say I'm running again. And with the election for Senate 30, in the mix here, it's kind of like you don't want to get in and have people think you're running for Senate. So
there's a little complicated stuff going on.
Campaign, but yes, I will qualify the 1st of March, and would love another 4-year term. I've like I said, enjoyed the job. I know it sounds crazy, but like from day one, I get up and I love coming to work. I love helping people every day. There's been 1 or 2 I haven't been able to help, and I just tell them, this is all I can do, or we just don't have that in place. And they're genuinely just appreciative that I called them back. And I think that's the most important thing, is just making sure that the citizens know they're heard. even if we can't do what they want, or just knowing that you're listening to them. And so I've always enjoyed retail, and I consider this job a very retail position because we are selling a service to our citizens.
Yeah, and I think you've handled that well. I was going to say one of the things I've appreciated that you are accessible. You do reach out and call people. You talk to people. You know people by name and so forth. And I love that. One last thing I didn't have on my sheet to ask you, just to kind of give you a heads up on, is the new building on College Street.
Yeah.
I really wanted to chat for a second because I had a friend of mine call me today and say, "All right, you seem to know everything in our town. Where in the heck is the tag office?" And I was able to tell him how to go to. He said, "Oh, I went to Carroll Tech." I said, "I should have talked your language instead of West Georgia Technical College, the old campus." But tell me a little bit about what's going to go in that building in College Street. What it's going to look like, feel like. Do we have those plans already kind of in place?
We do, and I'm glad I tried so hard. I did a bunch of radio ads, and especially with the municipal elections back in the fall, I'd never wanted anyone not to make it to the voting place because the county decided to move in the middle of an election almost. So, ran ads on the radio, ran ads in the Times Georgian, did things on Facebook, but you still miss people periodically. Yeah. But the county had looked at several pieces of property that we already owned, and it really came back to there again. The topography. There was another piece. It had some really good components to it, but it would have had a retaining wall that would have been like 30 foot and gosh knows how long. And, I'm afraid of things being wet, basements and stuff. So it really went back to the same location here. It was a good location.
Right.
I think the original thought was there enough parking because it's about 4 acres. With the design of the building, which is going to look like I think it was about the 1860s courthouse.
Okay.
So it's going to have a clock tower. It's going to have a turret. So it's going to look very much like that. And, in the old days, you had the horse and buggy where people would come through. Well, I've actually put in 2 covered entranceways because I think about, senior citizens. I think about, moms with children and, it's raining and it's cold.
Days,
you want to drop somebody off. And I want to make it really easy. I'm in this lovely, almost 100-year-old building, the historic courthouse. It is not easy for citizens to get in this building. And the parking deck is not closed. I'm not saying that people can't walk, but honestly, as gorgeous as the building is, it's not easy accessible to citizens. So that was one thing in the new design, making sure that when we have a Board of Commissioners meeting, you can easily get into us. The seating's good, the walkway's in. It's going to be 3 stories on one side, 2 on the other, because the land does do this. On the lower level, it's going to have your tag office, your election, and your tax assessor, the things that people use
a lot,
pretty regularly. And there again, the one side that has the clock tower and the other side has a turret because there's almost 2 front doors to this building.
Okay.
And with it being in the center, I never want anyone to drive around and feel like they were looking at the back of the building or the homes and businesses around it to feel like they had the back wall. So the building on all 4 sides is designed to be almost front facing. So I'm thinking in about 18 months, we moved everybody out to what we call 997 because saying Old West Georgia Tech sounds like a mouthful. And of course, West Georgia Tech is down the street. And so it's kind of like 997. We do everything by addresses in the county. It was nice that we finally got that back from the state for our donation of land to West Georgia Tech. So that was an easy move. Did it in less than 3 months. Very thankful to Ashley Halsey for coordinating that. She coordinated with all the departments and worked with the sheriff's department and the CI and getting inmates to help with the labor. So it was really like under $150,000 that moved to move people into that office. And people ask, what are we going to do with it when we're done? So in about 2 years, we'll have another SPLOST, and I'd love to ask the citizens to renew it. The current Board of Commissioners plan is that the sheriff's office, not the jail, but the sheriff's office is over 50 years old. And there again, it's not historical. The maintenance on it and the way that the sheriff's office does business now, that building is just not a great way to do it. You've got people in tiny, tiny offices. You've got closets that were made into offices. So if the citizens renew that SPLOST, we'll move the sheriff's department across the street into what is 997. So all the office space that we just invested in, we'll move the deputies and the investigators. So they're right there near the jail. And then we'll build him a new facility.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's
that'll be
the idea behind that. So we are really making sure citizens' money is being used, recycled, repurposed. I mean, the whole thing. But this building over here is going to be absolutely, I think the citizens will be very pleased. It'll fit with the downtown nature. It fits with our history. The other thing too, is some people had said, why are you building a new building? They only go in there once a year. And I said, but you got to remember, I have over 90 employees that work for Carroll County in all those facilities, community development, environmental health, fire department, human resource. All these employees, they deserve a nice place to work too. Now, this is not going to be fancy with marble floors or anything like that, because they're,
right.
again, in the convenience store industry, we don't want any slip and falls. But, employees and citizens that live and work here in Carroll County deserve a nice place to work.
Right.
Plus, a place that is efficient.
Mm-hmm.
The electric bills on these buildings that are, the school over there was 1948.
Yeah.
It's hard to get internet in there. The hallways are our waiting rooms. You can just imagine the drafts and the air conditioning
Oh,
going
yeah.
in and out. So we're building everything to be more efficient with your yearly tax dollars and running this facility too. So
That's cool.
I'm real excited about it. Thinking about 2 years, it'll be ready to go. I've been knocking on all the doors in that area to the best of my ability because I want to let them know, hey, I get it. It's going to be loud. It's going to be messy. It's going to be dusty, but bear with us because the end result, I think, will help up the value of their homes. And I think they'll be very pleased when they're out walking in the morning at night to see something so attractive.
Very good. Well, you've definitely been enthusiastic sharing about Carroll County today, and I'm really grateful for your time, Michelle, and thank you for your public service because we typically kind of know how you're paid and all that stuff, and for what you do and how much load you carry, I'm not sure it's enough, but
Well,
that's what
thank
it
you.
is.
Thank
But I
you.
appreciate your service to our county, and please know if there's anything we can do. The team at my office is always welcoming
Great.
opportunity to help you guys any way we can, and you guys have a blessed day, and I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you coming on,
Bye-bye.
Michelle. You have a great day. Bye-bye now. Well, that was Michelle Morgan from Carroll County Real Estate Commissioner, and it was a fantastic interview, and I'm really grateful for her friendship and her service to our county. The All Pro team's here to help you anyway. If we can help you learn more about Carroll County, we're happy to do that too. So have a blessed day. I'm going to sign off for now. My name is Dwayne Hicks with the All Pro team at Metro West Realty. See you soon.